So let me start recording and I will share my screen. Okay. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Very bold. Thank you everyone for joining. So today we start with the chapter 6, which is called Dhyana Yoga by Prabhupada. The other names the other acharyas gave is Ashtanga Yoga, practice of mystic yoga, or Atma Samyama Yoga, yoga of self-control or mind control. Right. Before that, let's just look at chapter 5, a brief review. Right. Chapter 5 was more so action in Krishna, Karma Yoga in Krishna consciousness, where again, for the second time, Arjun is asking, you want me to work or you want me to renounce? Right. And then he says that um, both are equal, sannyas or nishkam karma yoga, but nishkam karma yoga is easier because if our heart is not purified, that we can do the nishkam karma yoga and be detached from the fruits of the results. It's easier to do. So you should do nishkam karma yoga. So that was there in the verses 1 to 6, saying renunciation and working in the spirit of renunciation are the same because premature. But for Arjun, working is better because premature renunciation is distressful. Then verses 7 to 12, working with detachment, saying if somebody is working in detachment, he is never entangled, he's self-controlled, he's doer, yet the non-doer, he works for the supreme with detachment, he's seeking purification, and he attains peace. So that was verses 7 through 12, saying what happens when we work with detachment, right? We like so that Nishkam Karma Yoga breaks the bondage. We are not entangled. And then we spoke about like there are three doers, right? We think I do this, I have done this, I'm proud of this because I have done this, I built this empire from scratch or whatever we have done. So we discussed that there are three factors. It's just not the soul, it's the material nature, the soul desire, saying I want to do this. Then it goes to Krishna who sanctions it, the super soul. And then when Krishna sanctions it, it happens to the material nature, right? Our body is also material nature, but we are not the body, we are the soul. So the soul, the jiva desires, super soul sanctions, and it is executed by the material nature. So we discussed that. And the fourth section was liberation through focusing on the supreme soul. So that we described like what are the symptoms of a self-liberated person, right? He sees everybody with equal vision. The famous verse, Pandita Samadarshana, that the humble sages by virtue of knowledge see a learned Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog each with equal vision. Now those people are wise. Then we discussed like a self-realized person does not rejoice the material things. He doesn't lament for something unpleasant. He is fixed intelligent. He has fixed intelligence. Knows the signs of God. So all those symptoms we discussed, and we were asking like how that this sense enjoyment has to be like is distressful, and we should tolerate these temptations to work on these urges. So, and how long should we restrain these urges till our end of life, right? So we discussed that, and then we discussed two verses which were talking about Ashtanga Yoga. Just a preview. What is Ashtanga Yoga? The eightfold system of meditation. That was verses 27 and 28. And finally, one of the most famous verse, where Krishna says, that gives the peace formula. And mind you, we are in the battlefield, and Krishna is giving the peace formula, saying that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities. He's the supreme proprietor of all planets and demigods. He's the supreme well-wisher of all living entities. And if somebody knows this, then he will have peace. He will not have any pang of material miseries. So three things, right? You have to understand that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Like, we shouldn't be thinking that I want to enjoy, but we have to work for so that Krishna enjoys or Krishna is pleased. We have to understand he's the supreme proprietor. I own this house, I own this and that. That really is not, because the whole world belongs to Krishna. We're just borrowing or loaning this from Krishna. So we have to understand he's the supreme proprietor and he's a supreme well-wisher. So supreme enjoyer, supreme proprietor, supreme well-wisher. If we always think, if we have any distress, you have to understand, am I trying to control somebody? Am I trying to be the proprietor? Am I trying to be the enjoyer? We will find the answer. If we are trying to do that, then we will find ourselves in distress. But if you're doing that so that Krishna is pleased, then we will have peace. So that was the peace formula we discussed in chapter 5. Now going to chapter 6, right? It's called Dhyana Yoga. Again, a big chapter, 47 verses. A little technical chapter, but we will try to see how if we can make it a little easier. So the first 4 verses are Aruruksha stage, which is the beginner stage, right? How do you advance in yoga through detached work? Again, Nishkam Karma Yoga. And then the second stage is the Yoga Arudha stage, meaning where the elevated stage, where you give up work and you're focusing inside. What are the stages in the practice of yoga, right? There are the external stages, how you should sit, where you should sit, which where if you have to go to the forest. So from the external to the internal, external, where you should look, how you should meditate, and then from an internal perspective, what will be your experience, what will be your vision, you will get to samadhi. All that is described in verses from 10 to 32. Then, like for yoga, this Ashtanga yoga, Ashtanga means 8. Asht means 8. Anga means limbs. So 8 limbs of this yoga practice is called Ashtanga yoga, and we will discuss that. And how do you do that? One of the major necessity of doing Ashtanga yoga is that we have to control our mind. If our mind is running around, is not steady, it's very difficult to do this Ashtanga yoga. And then Arjun says, okay, if I'm not successful in this birth, what will happen to an Ashtanga yogi or any kind of yogi? So then Krishna answers those questions. And then final verse, Krishna says, the topmost yogi is a bhakti yogi. And that will open the gateway to the bhakti section of Bhagavad Gita, which is from chapters 7 to 12. Right? We are in the karma section, chapter 1 to 6. So that's why we are reaching the end of the karma section. And can anybody tell me why is this still chapter 6? It's not karma yoga, but why? Like the dhyana yoga is not considered karma yoga. So why is it under karma yoga section? Why do we call chapter 6 is also under karma yoga section? Can anybody take a guess?
Maybe to transition from the karma yoga to bhakti yoga, but before you can go to bhakti yoga, you need to be able to control your mind from the karma or from the materialistic world. And once you're able to control your mind and be able to focus, then you can, now that focus mind can focus on Paramatma or Krishna better. That's just my guess.
Yeah, a little bit, but the answer is like Ashtanga Yoga consists of 8 limbs, right? It comes Yama, Niyama, Yama, Niyamana, Asana, and the 4th is Pranayam. So Yama means the don'ts. Niyama means the do's. Then the third is asana, the postures, which people call yoga these days. And fourth is pranayam, the breathing exercises. Those are still from the 8 aspects. And then the fifth is pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So the first 4, we are still doing karma. We are saying I should be non-violent, or I should be clean. So we are still doing work. We are saying I have to do these exercises. So that is why it is part of Karma Yoga section, because the first 4 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga is still outer, like external factors. So then we can go internal and focus on the super soul inside. That's why it's part of the Karma Yoga section. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's go through this thing. So here, this is an unasked question. Krishna and Arjuna are very intimate friends. In chapter 5, Krishna says, no, yes, sannyas and Nishkam Karma Yoga, like working with devotion, are equal. But it's easier for you because if your mind is not, if it is, you should not do premature renunciation. If you still have any material desires, you should not take the path of just sannyas and giving up things. And so the question becomes like, question Arjun is thinking about but is not asking is, so when can one take up sannyas? When can one take up, when is our mind, or when can we say we are not premature and we are mature in our control of the mind, where you're mature in giving up things? When can we take up this sannyas? This is what is going through his mind. And because Krishna is in the heart of Arjun, and he's Paramatma, and he's also his friend, he understands this. That's where he starts to answer these questions. When can you take up this sannyas or Ashtanga Yoga thing? So first of all, he says, you still, to get to the level of sannyas, you first still need to go through Nishkam Karma Yoga, that you cannot be attached to the fruits of your work, right? And once you are at that level, that your heart is clean, heart is pure, your heart is not agitated by the sense, by the material things outside, then you can go deeper inside and meditate on the super soul. And as in the 5th chapter, the last verse, the peace formula, we have to understand Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, he's the supreme controller, and he's our best friend, right? So first step, even for Ashtanga Yoga, is Nishkam Karma Yoga, when we are not attached to the fruits of our work, right? And so in the first verse, Krishna says that sannyasi and a yogi are the same. In the second verse, he says, because real sannyasi is like, we should first start with Nishkam Karma Yoga, like we are unattached to the fruits of the work. So he's living the life of a sannyasi because he's not attached to the fruits of the work. And not the person who doesn't want to do sacrifice or performs no duty. No, that is, unless your heart is clean, you cannot do that. You still have to do Nishkam Karma Yoga. So a sannyasi is a Nishkam Karma Yogi because he is renouncing the results of his actions. An Ashtanga Yogi, he doesn't even bother about like, I want to go to the cinema, I want to do this, or he doesn't have any tendency for sense enjoyment. So that's a yogi. So he's saying yoga and sannyas are the same because they're detached from the results of the actions. The yogi doesn't even want to dwell on the enjoyment of senses. So, but he says that we should not suddenly give up prescribed duties. And then, so we should not give up Nishkam Karma Yoga unless our heart is purified, and then we can go to Ashtanga Yoga, right? So a reflection for us, do we have activities where we are attached to the fruits of activities. For example, we work hard so that I can enjoy, or Krishna is the center and saying we are working hard so we can serve Krishna nicely. Is there an attachment to fruits? Again, it's a homework. We can think about what are the activities where we are working so that we are expecting something for enjoying for ourselves, right? And that is because of false ego, because we're thinking we in terms of body, right? If we are trying to enjoy, that means I'm trying to enjoy from a bodily perspective, and I'm thinking I'm the controller and I'm the creator. But in fifth chapter, we heard that there are three players in action, right? The Jiva desires, Supreme Lord or Paramatma sanctions, and third is the material nature executes it. So we should try to see, do we have the tendency where we are working so that we can enjoy the fruits of the action, right? Then we are sakam karma, or we are karmis where we want to enjoy, right? And of course, we're not pure, so we will have those, but we have to identify those and see how we can put Krishna in the center. I'm doing this so not for my enjoyment, but for Krishna's enjoyment. So we have to slowly, gradually change that. And this will, when we do that, then our false ego will dissolve. False ego is basically Ankar saying, I'm the body, not the soul. And once it starts to dissolve, then we can realize, we understand we are not the body, but the soul. But how do we realize that we are the soul once this false ego, this Ahankar is completely destroyed, right? Because we are in this body, the soul is in this body, we identify itself with the body. So this is one homework, right? We should do. Anybody wants to add anything, like any reflections here? We might have many examples. I have my own examples. Like we do things where we are attached to the fruits, right? Okay.
Right now, whatever we do. Frankly speaking, we are always looking for a result, or we definitely are attached.
Yes.
At least in my case, I don't think I'm at that stage where, yeah, but I will say only 5% of the things which we try to do just recently, where we don't expect any results.
Yes, it's very true. It's hard, but it is doable. It's doable. Saying I gave my best, the results are not in my hand. That is in Krishna's hand. That Krishna doesn't discourage us from giving our best, but we give our best. Results, leave the results to him, right? So many examples, and that's why chapter 1 to 6 are so very important, because we all do activities. We are not sannyasis. We're not yogis. We are living in this material world. We have to take care of families. That's why the first 6 chapters are really important, how to try to go towards Nishkam Karma Yoga. So then in the verses 3 to 4, Krishna talks about Yoga Aruruksha and Yoga Arudha. So Yoga Aruruksha is the beginning stages of Ashtanga Yoga. And Yoga Arudha is the advanced stage, right? And what's the definition, right? Krishna says, for one who is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system is the Ashtanga Yoga system. Work is said to be the means. That's why this chapter is in Karma Yoga. Work is said to be the means, that we are still working. We're not renounced. We're still doing work. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, which is Yoga Arudha state, we tend to do no work. We're not, any material activities is given up, right? That's the advanced stage. But in the first 4 stages, you're still doing work. So that's the beginning stages of Ashtanga Yoga. So when is it that person in Yoga Arudha? When he has renounced all material desires, he is not acting for any sense gratification, he is not engaging in any fruitive activities. That's a high stage, right? Where we are not saying, I don't bother about all the glitter, all the gold which is glittering. I don't bother about, enjoying ice cream, enjoying cinema, this, that, all that. Not bothered about all that, right? We are seeking pleasure internally. We're not seeking pleasure outside, we're seeking pleasure inside, because there's a lot of bliss when we meditate on the Supreme Lord inside our heart, right? So that's the yoga arudha stage, and the culmination of that is samadhi, right? You're completely absorbed in the Supreme Lord. So that's the yoga arudha stage, and the beginning stage is the yoga ruruksha stage. So if we see this chart, right, this beautifully describes that. So there are 8 angas, or 8 limbs of Ashtanga yoga. First one is called yama, right? 5 restraints, or the don'ts, or also the society rules, saying ahimsa, we're not gonna hurt anybody. Satya, we are gonna not lie, we are gonna speak the truth. Asteya, meaning no, we will not steal. Brahmacharya, like being a celibate. Aparigraha, like non-possessiveness. We don't hoard so much stuff. We only keep stuff which we need. So that is yama, right? And in today's world, when people say yoga, they only think about asanas, all the different poses. But actually, Ashtanga yoga is all these 8 different stages. And there is a gradual gradation, right? So we have to follow the first 5 restraints, saying we will not do these things. We will follow ahimsa, we will follow satya, asteya, brahmacharya, and aparigraha. Second is niyamas, right? What should we do? The first one was the don'ts. The second one is the do's, or the personal regulations we have to follow. The first one is the society regulations. The second one is the personal regulations, like we will stay clean, we will stay pure, saucha. Santosha, I'll be content with whatever I have, whatever I get. I will not be greedy. Austerity, tapas, right? Austerity in speaking, austere, like we will speak only which is truthful, which was beneficial. Austerity in eating, all those things, austerity. Swadhyaya, study of the scriptures. I'll study the scriptures. Ishvara pranidhana, meaning surrender to the Lord. We will surrender to the Lord. So these are the 5 niyamas, right? These are the 5 do's. Then comes the asanas, right? Yes.
One question: the surrender part. What's the activity like? Is it how do you do that? Like, what's the activity involved here?
The activity here is basically saying, okay, I am surrendered to the Lord. And I don't know the details. I'll try to find out, but it's, I will try to find out. It says Kriya Yoga, but what is the actual activity? I don't know, like from a bodily perspective. I will try to find that out. Third one, but it's a good question. I was also wondering, like, surrender, why surrender is there from a karma section.
Yeah, basically, like other things like austerity, you can understand how you will do it. Swadhyaya, you mentioned like scriptures, right? I was wondering like what study what, but then you answered like scriptures. But this one was like, how do we do it?
Yes, agreed. Right. But there are 6 limbs of surrender, but I don't know if that applies in Ashtanga Yoga. The 6 limbs of surrender are basically, I will do only activities which are favorable for Krishna consciousness. I will not do any activity which are not favorable for Krishna consciousness. I believe that Krishna is my maintainer. 3rd, I believe that Krishna is my protector. 4th, 5th is humility. I'll do everything with humility. And 6th is I will completely surrender. I will not do anything which is not like, which is where I'm not keeping Krishna in the center. So these are the 6 limbs of surrender, but I just don't know if that falls under the niyama section or not. So asanas, again, we all know, right? It is a rage in the US, rage in the India, right? So many different kinds of asanas. And why it's going on from this? Because unless your outside is clean or outside is controlled, the mind is controlled. The basic 4 things is these all things is for Ashtanga Yoga, your mind has to be in control. Otherwise, we cannot do this. So this is where it is getting us to through regulations to controlling the mind. So 4th is pranayama, right? You are breathing the anulom, vilom, and all those breathing exercises which are controlling the vital forces, the 5 airs in the body, the pran, the apan, saman, udan, vyan. So pranayam is again, because breathing controls, it helps to calm the mind. And Ashtanga yoga cannot be done without the mind being controlled. So this is called Hatha yoga, these 4 steps: yama, niyama, asana, and pranayama. But generally, Hatha yoga, they will only go with asana and pranayama in today's world. They don't talk about yama and niyama. Say that, so, and this is also the yoga aruruksha stage. Now, Arudha stage is further, like that's the elevated stage where you have pratyahara. Basically, you're withdrawing your senses from material objects. You're not attracted. Like when a tortoise is there, a tortoise is, when it sees danger, it withdraws its limbs and goes inside the shell. So in pratyahara, you see, say, a cinema, which is like not Krishna conscious, you control your senses, you will not go there. You see tempting food, which is not prasad, you control your senses, you will not eat. So you're withdrawing your senses inside, right? And you're not dealing with anything which is materially like for sense gratification. Then becomes in gradual gradation of concentration on the Supreme Lord, dharan. So you're doing dharan, concentration or meditation on the Supreme Lord, dhyan, right? Concentration, meditation, and samadhi is complete absorption. There's not a single thought in your mind except for meditating on the Supreme Lord. That is samadhi, right? And we will talk about different kinds of like who meditates on what. But this whole process of meditation in this age of Kali Yuga is a little difficult because it needs a lot of practice, needs a lot of years, and it all belongs on your effort. But if we take a look at Bhakti Yoga, there's somebody helping you. God is reciprocating and pulling you upwards. The devotees, if you have the devotee association, devotees are pulling you upwards in Bhakti Yoga. But in Ashtanga Yoga, you will see Krishna is going to say that you have to live in a solitary place. You have to sit in a particular position. So it's only your effort. But in Bhakti Yoga, Krishna is pulling you up. You make the effort, and Krishna is also making the effort. He's pulling you up. So it's a little, it's easier, right? It's an express elevator. But here, Ashtanga Yoga, it's a little difficult, right? So we talked about yama, which is social discipline. Niyama is personal discipline, and Ishvara Parinadhana, it says surrender to God, but I'll see, and from a niyama perspective, what does that mean? Right? And we all know what the different kinds of asanas and pranayam, right? And then again, then it becomes pratyahara, and then dharan, and then dhyan, and then samadhi, right? So Ashtanga yogi or yogi will meditate on super soul, on the Paramatma inside your heart. A jnani will focus on Brahma Jyoti, on the supreme, on the light, the effulgence, right? Some people want to merge into the effulgence. They want to, like in the Hindi say, they say, Bhagavan mein leen hona chahte hain. So jnani is focused on Brahman, saying, we just want Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. We want to merge into the Brahman. But a devotee focus and samadhi is just on Krishna, right? And that's the highest stage because, right, here there are 3 stages of Bhagavan also, right? So here the jnani is called Brahman, like he's focusing on Brahman. The 3 aspects of the Lord: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, right? Nirakar, Brahman is Nirakar, right? He doesn't have a form. He's just the effulgence of the Lord. And that's what most of the religions teach these days. But there you can go and like the soul will get merged into the Supreme Lord, but the soul is active. You're just like, say, a husband and a wife are fighting, right? And they said, okay, I'm not going to talk to you. The wife says, I'm not going to talk to you. There is peace in the house, but there's no bliss. There's no happiness. The husband is in one room, the wife is in the other room. So it's like that. Okay, there's peace, there's shanti, but where is the bliss? Where is the happiness? Of course, when you merge into Brahman, there is happiness, there is Brahmananda, but that happiness is very minuscule as compared to Bhagavan realization. So that is the Brahman realization. And then Paramatma realization. Okay, I see the Lord in my heart, but how do I serve him? That's the question, right? Ashtanga Yogi, how do I serve him? But then when we see Krishna and serve him, that's the Bhagavan realization. I gave the example of the samosa earlier. I don't know if you guys remember, right? If I say, go to Rajesh Prabhu, your house, and I'm outside, I smell that Rajesh Prabhu is cooking samosas. So I'm getting the smell. I'm getting that happiness. So that is Brahman realization. I've not seen him, but I can smell it. And then I go inside and I see Rajesh Prabhu has a good pot, a good pan. That's the oil is there and is frying the samosas. I can see it. That's Paramatma realization. I can see the Lord. But then when I actually take the samosa, break it apart and eat it, that is Bhagavan realization. I'm actually able to enjoy. Is it making sense? There's 3 different kinds of samadhi, 3 different aspects of the Lord. Mostly people focus these days on the Brahman or the Paramatma realization. But Bhagavan realization, the highest, where you will find unlimited happiness, right? So that's the samadhi part, right? And then to do this Ashtanga yoga, the mind control is very necessary, right? Krishna says, one must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well, right? And Prabhupada's spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, used to say, when you get up, beat your mind so that it doesn't do bad things. And when you're about to go to bed, also beat your mind with chappal, because this mind is a rascal. It is getting attracted to so many things which it should not be. So if our mind is if we can control the mind, it's like our friend. Otherwise, it's our enemy. Right? So mind control is very necessary for Ashtanga yoga. Right? So if uncontrolled mind, how is it an enemy? Because it's getting that it is sensing, it's getting attracted to lust, anger, illusion, etc. It wants to enjoy. The body wants to enjoy, right? So the consciousness degrades, and we are engaged in karma. So then we again take birth. So all those things, Jan Mrityu, Jara Vyadhi, birth, death, old age, and disease, we are entangled in that. But if you're controlling our mind, right? We hear the instructions of the super soul, and we are detached from sense gratification. I don't want to enjoy for myself, but I want to please Krishna. Then it elevates us. It purifies us, right? We are peaceful, and we are actually becoming purer and purer, right? So that's the role of the mind. Like we have the 6 enemies of the mind, right? Kam, the lusty desires, krodha, anger, right? Greed. I want more money, more and more money. They become mad, right? We behave in such a way that it's not appropriate. Illusion. We think something is, we illusion that this material happiness is everything. And then we are envious. Oh, Rajesh Prabhu has 2 houses. I want to make more than him. Like I want to have 3. I'm sorry, Prabhu. I'm just picking on you today because you're on camera. So envy. I want more money than him. I want like that envy. So these are the 6 enemies of the mind. And if we even recall, right, when before Krishna was born, 6 sons were killed by Kamsa, and they represent these 6 enemies of the mind, right? And 7th one was Balaramji, who makes it clean for Krishna to come. That's the 8th child, right? So Krishna will not appear if we have these enemies of the mind. We will not be able to see Krishna in our heart, right? Kam, Krodha, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya. So it's very imperative to overcome these enemies of the mind. And how do we control? Through bhakti. Bhakti already, it conquers that, because bhakti has 9 stages. The first stage is Shraddha. Shraddha meaning I have faith, right? The second stage is Sadhu Sangha, like I associate with the devotees. And third stage is Bhajan Kriya. When I associate with the devotees, they chant, I chant. They read Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, I do that. Then I take shelter of a guru. So that third stage is Bhajan Kriya. I do that bhajan, I do that devotional service. Fourth stage, which is the biggest, the longest stage, is Anartha Nivritti, which means getting rid of all these anarthas. Almost all fourth stages, almost most of these anarthas, or the unwanted things in our heart, will go away. That is the biggest stage, because we keep doing devotional service. But because we have taken millions of births, so Bhujan Prabhu says that we have 32-kilometer deep layer of these bad things in our heart. So it takes time. It takes time to clear that up. So that is Anartha Nivritti stage. And then we go to Nishta, where we are steady. Ruchi, meaning we have a taste. Asakti, where we have attachment to the Lord. And then comes Bhava, where is spontaneous love for Krishna. And then Prema is the highest stage of Bhakti, where we just love Krishna and do anything and everything for Krishna. So our intelligence is supposed to control the mind, and mind is supposed to control the senses, right? But it's usually the other way around. Oh, I see the ice cream or the Baskin Robbins store. It looks so tempting, even though it's not prasadam, it's not offered to Krishna. Let me just have it, right? So the senses are trying to tell mind, it's igniting thoughts, unfulfilled desires, and then mind is saying, okay, let's do it. Telling intelligence is not working, is not saying, oh, it's not good for your health. So intelligence is supposed to control the mind, and mind is supposed to control the senses, but usually it's the other way around, where for us sometimes, right? If you look at this chariot, right? These 5 senses are like the 5 horses. Mind is like the reins, right? The reins of the horses, and intelligence is the driver, and soul is the passenger. So we want to go to Krishna Loka. We want to go to the spiritual world. So our senses should be in control through our intelligence and mind, saying we should be living a regulated life with keeping Krishna in the center. Otherwise, our senses will stray as like, okay, we might again come back to this material world, right? So this is the chariot of the body. So far, any questions?
No question from me.
Okay. So then Krishna says, for one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. And we have to think, right? How many times we give in to the pressures of the mind? Oh, let me just take a look at this video game, or play this video game, Ishan, or let's just turn on the laptop, or look at the phone, right? The mind. So we have to try to conquer the mind, right? And Krishna says, if somebody has conquered the mind, we have super soul is already reached, right? We are seeing the Paramatma, but he's attained tranquility. He's very peaceful, right? To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same, right? The example we can think of is Narad Muni. Narad Muni in his previous life was the son of a maidservant. And there's no mention of his father in Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was a little boy. He used to help his mother in the chores. His mother used to work in different houses. But in the Chaturmas period, like the rainy season, the monsoon season, some brahmana, some exalted sages came to a house where his mother was serving, And he got the association. Narad Muni is a little boy, got the association of those Bhakti Vedanta, those people. And they taught him Srimad Bhagavatam. They gave him their left remnants. Narad Muni had then taste of devotional service. And he had only his mother to as a support. But what happens? The devotees, those exalted devotees, leave after the monsoon season. And one day his mother is bitten by a snake and he's an orphan. So what does he do? Narad Muni is a little boy, because he had the love for Krishna, because of those devotees, exalted devotees who taught him Bhagavatam, who taught him the devotional service. He just leaves his house and he says, okay, Krishna wants to teach me a lesson. I want to be more connected to. He doesn't even cry. He's just focused now. Krishna wants me to be completely dependent on him. He starts walking towards the north, right, towards the Himalayas. And he's walking, he's watching the mountains and the lakes and everything. And he's just doing his devotional service. He's so connected to Krishna that he sees the Lord in his heart. Narad Muni sees the Lord in his heart. And he's so blissful. He's so happy. But then in a moment, then Lord Krishna disappears. And then he keeps trying, can I see Krishna back again? Lord Vishnu back again in my heart. He doesn't see that. And he's very agitated. Then Lord Krishna says, he hears that I only showed you once so that you have a taste for me, so that you can do more devotional service and come back to me. Like you will then always see me. And then he does more devotional service, pure devotional service. And once he dies, he takes the form of Narad Muni, who is always singing the glories of the Lord, right? So that's the example that he conquered his mind. As a small child, he was not distracted. He was not like, okay, my mother is dead, what will I do? He was completely conquered his mind, focused because he got the association of the devotees, mind was completely focused on the Supreme Lord. And he then got the designation of Narad Muni, which is a huge, huge devotee of the Lord. Right? There is another example. We'll not go there because of time. So that's a person in the elevated stage, Yoga Aruda stage, right? That person is fully satisfied because he has knowledge and realization. He's self-controlled. Like, even if he sees a pebble or stone or gold, he considers them as the same, right? He's not after like money. It's like, okay, these things are same, like gold or pebble or stone. I don't know when we will be able to get to that level, but that is a high level where they don't even consider like, okay, this gold or stone or pebble, for them is the same. So which reminds me of another story. There was a Brahmana 500 years ago who heard about, I think it is Sanatana Goswami, who is one of the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one of the Goswamis in Vrindavan. He wanted it, the Brahmana heard about Sanatana Goswami, and he heard that Sanatana Goswami has a touchstone. Touchstone meaning it can take any metal and use that metal to touch it, and it'll turn into gold. So he was like curious, and he heard that Sanatana Goswami is very, he is very merciful. He can, if you ask him, he will give anything. So he had to get his daughter married. The Brahmana had to get his daughter married. So he went to Sanatana Goswami and he says, I have to get my daughter married. I don't have enough money. And I heard you have a touchstone. Can you please give me the touchstone so I can get some gold and get my daughter married? He says, sure. Sanatana Goswami says, in that rubbish pile, the touchstone is there. You can get it. So that Brahmana goes there and looks through the rubbish pile, finds the touchstone, gets very happy, gets a lot of gold, and then makes his daughter's marriage happen. But then he was thinking, Sanatana Goswami must have something which is better than that, because that was in the rubbish pile. Why would a person keep that in the rubbish pile? And he went back to Sanatana Goswami and says, you must have something which is more precious than this, because this touchstone was in the rubbish pile. Can you give me something which is more precious than this? Because I believe you have something more precious than this. He says, of course I can give you that. So before I give you that, you have to throw this touchstone in the lake. Just throw it. Then I will give you that. So he takes that, and the Brahmana takes that and throws it in the lake. They said, now tell me, Sanatana Goswami Maharaj, tell me what is more precious than this touchstone. He says, okay, the name of the Lord. Chant the names of the Lord. In the age of Kali, chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That is much more, and it's the ultimate thing which can take you to Krishna. So chant. And through the mercy of Sanatana Goswami, that Brahmana started chanting, and he started having that realization, that bliss, that chanting of the names of the Lord, the devotional service, the bhakti is much more precious than that gold, right? So people are on that level. It's a difficult stage, but yes, through bhakti we can, through Ashtanga Yoga we can reach that, right? And then higher than that, like in the elevated stage itself, the people who are in that stage, they will consider well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral people, the mediators, the envious people, the friends, the enemies, the pious, the sinners, with an equal mind. Can we do that? Can Arjun consider Yudhishthir and Duryodhan to be the same? And we will see that that's one of the reasons he says later in this saying, this Ashtanga Yoga is very difficult. How can I consider my enemy and my friend to be equal? But that's the level of a person in a Yoga Aruda stage. Because they are not on the bodily platform, they are thinking everybody is a ansha, is a expansion, or is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So even we hate the sin, but not the sinner, because sinner is still the part and parcel of the Lord. So a person at that Yoga Aruda stage doesn't discriminate between enemies and friends. He treats them, everybody is equal. So what are the symptoms of the Yoga Aruda stage? He's neutral to all material existence and dualities. Like if it is hot, cold, if it's honor, dishonor, everything is equal to him, right? He doesn't complain. He sees everything equally, like pebble, stone, gold, right? He's fully satisfied by knowledge and realization, knowledge of the soul and realization of the soul. And he sees all people equally. It's the most advanced stage. It's very difficult to obtain, but it's doable, right? And these are the symptoms which develop when the mind acts as a friend, right? And now Krishna is going to describe how do you do this Ashtanga Yoga? How do you achieve that goal of perfection, right? So he says in verse 10, you have to control the mind, body, and self in Krishna's service, right? Where do we sit? We should live and practice in a secluded, sacred place. Sacred place like Holy Dham, like say Mathura, Vrindavan, Jagannath, Puri, those, but in a solitary place, secluded place. In Kali Yuga, it's very difficult, right? Like we have to leave all our families, go to a secluded place, sit there and control our senses and fix our mind in one point, right? And how do we sit in meditation? The body, neck, and head should be held erect. And while staring at the tip of the nose, right? No sex life, no fear. You meditate on Krishna within your heart, right? So these are the external things, right? Controlling your mind, body, and self. Where do you sit? You should sit in the kusha grass with a deer skin and a cloth on it, because the deer skin will it will scare away the snakes and the reptiles, right? You sit in the kusha grass along and the seat should not be high or too low. Should be at a good ground, like a medium ground. And if we do that meditation, we will attain the kingdom of God, right? And then, like, what are the other things we should do, right? We cannot eat or sleep too much or too little, right? Again, it's a basic thing even bhakti yogi should do. Eating, not too much sleeping, not too little sleeping, not too little eating, right? Then he reaches, this is going inwards, right? This is going inwards. Yoga Arudha, the elevated stage, his mind is fixed in samadhi, all his habits are regulated. He sees himself, he sees his Atma, and he's feeling that happiness, Brahmananda, right? And he thinks nothing because there is so much sense of happiness that you completely detached from the material world. You don't have any attraction to the material, to sense gratification. You feel so much sense of happiness because you're seeing yourself, and you know that you're a part and parcel of the Lord, right? There's boundless happiness, and just seeing him. He's understanding who he is. And in a later stage, he's also able to see Paramatma, right? And if our mind wanders while in meditation, you bring it back, right? You then again bring it back. So 9:55. I'll do this slide and then we'll stop. Like when we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and my mind would be thinking, oh, I have a meeting tomorrow at 8 a.m. I have to do laundry. I have to take Ishan to this. And if his mind is wandering, okay, but bring it back. Okay, now, next mantra, I'm not going to let my mind wander. I'm again concentrate, saying, this is my one-on-one time with Krishna. If some guest comes to my house, and I'm just looking here, there, and everywhere, Krishna is not going to be pleased. So let's just hear what I'm speaking. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Similarly, for meditation, while I'm meditating on the form of Lord Vishnu, then if my mind wanders, bring it back and just concentrate on the form of Vishnu, right? So when we have that samadhi, that we understand like the qualitative identity with the Supreme, saying, I'm a part and parcel of Krishna. I have the same qualities of Krishna, but Krishna is infinite. I'm finite. I'm very tiny. And Krishna is so huge, right? And he engages in Krishna's service. And then his perfection in yoga is like the ultimate stage. He sees Krishna or Vishnu everywhere. And Vishnu also sees him, right? And then he treats everybody equally, and he's always working for the welfare of all, right? With that being said, we'll pause here and continue next week. Open to comments, questions, feedback, or anything you would like to discuss. Anything? Anybody?
Just a small, like in the last slide, the fourth or fifth line also had like eat less. Like first time I'm seeing somewhere saying eating less is not good.
Yeah, because if we eat too less, right, we will not be able to sustain our body.
Okay.
Right? Because we have to get to Krishna, we have to keep our soul and body together. Right? If we are getting too less, then we might get sick. There is no strength in the body. Anything?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
That metaphor of samosa was really good, not the samosa, but the way to remember how to realize and serve God.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, the samosa example, I will never forget. I know you give it before, and I think it will always stick to my mind. I don't think I can ever forget it. He's such a great, as Kumar said, it's such a great metaphor where you said somebody can smell it, somebody can see it, but through bhakti you can taste it.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, because there are many examples, and this example, Chaitanya Sharan Prabhu, is like a spiritual scientist. He has taken Bhagavad Gita, he's drunk it. He gives so beautiful quotations and everything. He is wonderful, wonderful speaker. And he comes, Pankaj Prabhu, I'm not sure if you've seen him. He comes to our congregation once a year. So he does speak on Bhagavad Gita. He comes, and having him hearing his classes is so inspiring. Okay.
And yeah, just to mention the last metaphor of setting up one-on-one with Krishna was again. So I'm going to block my calendar. Anyways, I do that. But yeah.
Yes, that's one thing we have to keep reminding ourselves. Thank you. So, okay, so we'll again meet next week, and we'll try to finish this chapter. It's not now that two of these chapters we should be easily able to finish, but then I would say, because we're going to finish probably in 30-40 minutes, we will have some time. One more important thing before we that, like, okay, well, let me finish without. Let's try to come up with some things, because we're going to finish the first 6 chapters. What are our takeaways? What are reflections? Because that's karma section. What are we going to do to apply this in our lives? Because, okay, one thing is reading and hearing, but the other thing is applying that in our lives. Let's try to think of ways how we can, where are we lacking and how we can apply. And the next week, because we will have the daylight savings ending, we will have an extra, like we will go backwards, right? So can we do, for Kumar, it will be the same time, but the US time, like if we do 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern, next week at the same time, it will become 7:30 to 8:30 for you. Right now it's 6:30 to 8:30. So can we keep the same time for you, 6:30 to 7:30 a.m.? And for the US folks, it will become 8 to 9 Eastern earlier. Would that work?
Yes.
I know Ishan will be happy. He's happy, yes. So that we can go to bed early. Would that work? 8 to 9?
Work to me too also. I'm okay anytime. So I enjoy this class so much.
Thank you, Mataji.
You're welcome.
So Rajesh Prabhu, Vinny, Nisha Mataji, Pankaj Prabhu, would it work?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Kumar, it
Yeah.
doesn't change your time, but for the US folks, it will change. So it is fine for you, right?
Yes, absolutely works.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we will change the timing from the US perspective. So thank you, everyone. We just now pray to all the Vaishnavas, because they are they fulfill the desires. They're like the desire tree, and they are very compassionate to fallen souls like us. So we say our prayers. Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo nama. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.